mammals are not the only mama bears in the wild. Plants protect their young from day one. I am Andrea Summer, and I am here today with my colleagues Vanessa Thomas and Melanie Miller to explore this fascinating discovery.
Thank you, Andrea. Yes, this news may surprise you, so let's start with the basics. I'm sure that most people are aware that some form of sexual fertilization occurs to create babies. Well, in plants, it's the same deal. For clarity, let's define a few words. A gametophyte is the plant version of the human reproductive system. Specifically, the male gametophyte or microgametophyte creates male gametes, which we call pollen, just like the testes in a male human. The female gametophyte or the megagametophyte creates female gametes.
That's right, Melanie. But before we go any further, I want to give our viewers the scoop to help distinguish between two plant types. There are flowering and non-flowering plants. They are known as angiosperms and gymnosperms, respectively. A gymnosperm is responsible for what many of us experience as allergies due to their loose pollen. Gymnosperms have a single fertilization event, while angiosperms have a double fertilization event. Now, this is where it gets a little more complicated. Angiosperms require two sperm cells, which must fertilize one egg cell and one central cell. This is simultaneous fusion is the double fertilization event.
Now, viewers, you may be asking yourselves, what is a central cell?
I'm curious, what is the central cell, Andrea?
Well, the central cell accompanies the egg cell inside of the embryo sac as they both await fertilization. However, the central cell is soon to become an even more unique structure.
Unique how?
Well, here's the catch. The central cell that is fertilized by a pollen grain will form the structure known as the endosperm. The endosperm is a triploid nutritive tissue that surrounds the embryo during development. The endosperm structure is actually the defining feature of an angiosperm.
This process seems kind of complex, so to help visualize the developmental process, our correspondent Vanessa will volunteer her drawing skills.
All right, so when we have endosperm development, first, we start off with the embryo sac that develops from a haploid megaspore. There are 3 rounds of acytokinetic mitosis, meaning the replicated and separated DNA will not be totally separated into distinct cells. Individual cells are not identifiable until cell walls are formed. So what we see are 4 nuclei at each pole of the embryo sac. 1 nucleus will then migrate from each pole, leaving only 3 nuclei at each end. This forms the central cell, where we have the 2 nuclei in the middle. It is a diploid cell. Then the cell walls are formed at this pole, forming antipodal cells. The cell walls at this pole form 1 egg cell, which is haploid, and 2 synergid cells. Then we have the pollen tube, which will come down and it will allow 2 separate pollen grains to travel down. The first will fertilize the egg cell. The second will travel down the pollen tube and fertilize the central cell. Then we have a fertilized central cell, which will eventually become the endosperm. The fertilized egg cell will become the embryo, which will form the baby plant.
But why is the endosperm so important?
The biological significance of the endosperm is that it provides protection, nutrition, and embryo growth factors.
Yes, in regards to protection, the seed coat and the endosperm create a sort of container to protect the embryo during early germination. This container helps to protect the embryo from environmental factors and prevents desiccation, also known as death, of the seeds as they await the perfect environmental factors to initiate germination.
That's true, Vanessa. However, the most important function of the endosperm is its role in nutrition. In humans, there's a placenta connecting the fetus to the mother's blood supply. Through the placenta, the mother's body can supply nutrients for the fetus's survival. Angiosperm plants have a similar system. When the endosperm develops, it also develops a structure known as the suspensor. The suspensor acts as a passageway of nutrients between the surrounding endosperm to the embryo. This is crucial for embryo survival because the endosperm delivers sucrose to the embryo during the early stages of development.
I believe sucrose is the most vital nutrient for embryo growth, right, Melanie?
Yes, in addition to sucrose, the endosperm provides nutrients throughout the embryo's surrounding regions. The mechanisms of this process are still being researched, which means more news to come on this topic in the future.
How exciting, Melanie. Vanessa, I know you have more to say on the embryo growth factors.
Indeed, I do. So the endosperm is the outermost living layer of the seed. Its function is heavily influenced by both the embryo and the surrounding environment. The endosperm is capable of sensing light signals and interacting with the embryo through a back and forth hormonal communication mechanism so that the embryo can initiate growth at the optimal time.
Wow, plants truly are amazing organisms.
They are. So now stay with me for a bit. This part gets a little complicated. There is a gene in the plant DNA called the ZHOUPI gene. It is expressed in the embryo's surrounding regions in all plants, but the specifics of each plant's control system may differ a bit. I would like to discuss this gene's role in Arabidopsis seeds. This gene is an endosperm-specific basic helic loop helix transcription factor. The transcription factor encodes for lysis, cutting, or death of endosperm portions, while promoting the formation of the embryo's epidermis, the cuticle. This knockdown effect promotes embryo growth while degrading this endosperm as it becomes less and less needed.
The endosperm is truly an amazing structure. In fact, humans and other animals also use the endosperm as a source of nutrition and energy. The energy in the endosperm can be accessed by humans when we eat foods like corn, cereal, or whole wheat products. These food items contain the portion of the seeds with the endosperm, so we receive the same nutritious support that a developing embryo would.
Now, as basic plant supporters, we ask the question to ourselves, are the sperm cells identical? The pollen that travels down the tube to allow the sperm cells to fertilize the egg and central cell have a crucial role in developing the endosperm and the embryo.
Sounds like you're onto something there, Andrea. Tell us more.
Well, Melanie, in fact, a study was done to explore the likelihood of each sperm cell fertilizing which gamete. The results found by Hamamura and their team showed that the two sperm cells are equally likely to find and fertilize each female gamete. They tracked each sperm cell by using fluorescent imaging with markers. The results deemed each sperm had the same opportunity to fertilize either the egg or the central cell.
You know, I always wondered why only 2 sperm cells. What prevents from triple or even quadruple fertilization?
I knew you would ask that, Vanessa. In fact, Hamamura also explored the importance of not over-fertilizing the female gametophyte. The team investigated different factors that could block polyspermy. One role of the endosperm is suggested to be the blocker in polyspermy. Essentially, as the central cell is fertilized, it acts to block off any other pollen and female gamete fertilization.
Wow, this has been so interesting. Well, folks, that is all we have today on our plant news. Maybe next time we will have more concrete details about endosperm surrounding region and sucrose. And now for the weather with John Harada and graphics by Leonardo Joe. John?